Yeah.
Is there a Richard Bone here?
When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
In 1941, a British aristocrat got shot in Kenya. His name was Jocelyn Hay. He was the 22nd Earl of Errol, and he was a member of the British Union of Fascists. Nobody saw what happened. The evidence was mostly circumstantial. But there were a lot of rich people around who had reasons to want him dead, and the case fascinated people for decades. The film is based on an investigation book about the murder, but it's not really trying to solve the case because there was no solving it. What the movie does instead is take you inside this world of British aristocrats living in the colonies. You see their affairs, their jealousies, all the little power games they play with each other. The writing is sharp and the cast is great. John Hurt shows up, Hugh Grant shows up, everyone's doing solid work. White Mischief did well in the UK, but it never really broke through internationally. It deserved better because it's a smart, stylish crime film. There's this murder case from 1947 called the Black Dahlia. A woman named Elizabeth Short was found dead in Los Angeles, body cut in half. The case was never solved, and people have been obsessed with it ever since. In 1981, they made a film based on a novel about the case. They got Robert De Niro and Robert Duvall to star in it, playing brothers. Duvall's a lieutenant working the murder investigation, and De Niro's his brother, a priest. As the case goes deeper, the two of them end up on opposite sides. Here's what's interesting about this movie, though. You'd expect something about the Black Dahlia to be a whodunit. Track down the killer, solve the case, all that. But in this movie, they use the murder as background noise. What they actually made was a movie about these two brothers and their relationship and all the stuff they're hiding from each other. Neither one of them is a good guy. They've both done things they shouldn't have. The movie doesn't let you pick a side, it just shows you who these people are. Michael Douglas made a lot of movies people remember. This isn't one of them, but it should be. Douglas plays a young judge named Hardin who keeps running into the same problem. Violent criminals keep walking free on technicalities. Evidence got collected wrong. Procedure wasn't followed. He knows these people are guilty, but the law says he has to release them. Then another judge, played by Hal Holbrook, pulls him aside, tells him about a secret society of judges who meet behind closed doors. They retry the cases that slipped through the system, and when they find someone guilty, they have them killed. Hardin joins, and the rest of the movie is about what happens after that. Douglas is great, Holbrook is great, the whole thing stays tight and tense. This is the kind of mid-budget studio thriller they used to make all the time. Smart movies for adults that weren't blockbusters, but weren't tiny indies either. They don't make these anymore. Kurt Russell doesn't get nearly enough credit. The guy can do anything, but a lot of his best work just disappeared, and The Mean Season is one of those. Russell plays a crime reporter in Miami named Malcolm. He's burnt out, ready to quit, done with all of it. Then a serial killer starts calling him. The killer wants Malcolm to be his spokesman, do phone interviews, tell the public what he wants them to hear. In exchange, Malcolm gets exclusive access to the biggest story of his career. His girlfriend keeps telling him to stop. Just hand it to the police and walk away. Malcolm knows she's right. He knows exactly what the smart move is, but he can't do it. He's hooked on the story. The thing that's going to destroy him is the same thing he can't walk away from. The supporting cast is stacked here. Andy Garcia, Richard Jordan, Joe Pantoliano. But it's Russell's movie and he carries it. If you want a thriller that's actually about character instead of body count, track this one down. Nicholas Roeg is one of those directors that other filmmakers worship. You hear people talk about Don't Look Now and The Man Who Fell to Earth all the time, but nobody really talks about his other stuff, and Eureka might be his most underrated movie. It's based on the murder of Harry Oakes, a British gold mine owner who got killed in the Bahamas in 1943. Gene Hackman plays a prospector who strikes gold in 1925 and becomes one of the richest men alive. 20 years later, he's paranoid and isolated. He thinks everyone around him is trying to take what he built. His daughter, her husband, a mobster who wants his Caribbean island. He doesn't trust any of them. The cast is insane. Hackman, Rutger Hauer, Mickey Rourke, Joe Pesci, Teresa Russell, everyone's doing good work, and Rogue brings all his usual tricks. Ari Aster said Rogue was brutal with images, and there's a killing scene in this movie that backs that up. It's one of the most gruesome things ever put on film. The movie got an X rating in the US just for the violence. That's basically a death sentence. It bombed at the box office. Made about $120,000 against an $11 million budget. This one's for noir fans. It's British noir with a lot of jazz, set in Newcastle during tough economic times. Tommy Lee Jones plays a Texan businessman with mafia ties who's got real estate plans for the city. He needs to buy certain properties to make the deal work, but the guy who owns a jazz club won't sell. Without that property, the whole thing falls apart. Sean Bean plays an Irishman who works at the club. He meets an American woman played by Melanie Griffith, and she turns out to have a connection to Jones's character. The movie starts pulling all these threads together from there. The first half is mostly atmosphere. Rainy streets, jazz on the soundtrack, moody shots of the city. It takes its time. Then the second half kicks in and everything starts paying off. The whole cast gets interesting stuff to do, and the cinematography really works. That moody atmosphere pulls you in and doesn't let go. If The Cotton Club is the best crime film of the decade for mixing jazz and crime, Stormy Monday is the underrated runner-up. It deserves more attention than it got. Penelope Spheris directed a movie about two teenage boys who go on a killing spree, and she could have turned it into another generic slasher, but she went a completely different direction with it. Charlie Sheen and Maxwell Caulfield play the leads, back when Sheen was still doing serious dramatic work. Nicolas Cage actually turned down one of the roles and said later he regretted it. The script came from Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who went on to create The X-Files, and they wrote something that doesn't glorify what these kids are doing, but also doesn't turn them into cartoon villains. You understand why they're angry without ever feeling sympathy for them. The violence in this movie is genuinely hard to watch. It's not stylized, it's not fun, it just makes you uncomfortable. They put rock songs over killing scenes and worried that it made things look cool, but it really doesn't. It just makes everything more unsettling. The movie doesn't offer easy answers about why these kids are like this, it just shows you something horrible and lets you deal with it yourself. Alex Cutter came back from Vietnam missing a leg, an arm, and an eye, and he tries to bury everything else under alcohol. His best friend Richard Bone is a gigolo who sells boats on the side, and one night in Santa Barbara, Bone sees a man dumping a body. He tells Cutter about it, and the two of them decide to go after the guy they think did it. The studio had no idea how to sell this movie when it came out, and honestly, it's still a hard sell because it doesn't fit into any easy category. There's a crime plot, but it's not really a thriller. The main character is a Vietnam vet, but it's not a war movie. Most films about veterans want you to feel sorry for them, but Cutter's Way just shows you this guy who's angry and not actually likable and lets you figure out what to do with that. John Hurd plays Cutter, and he's incredible in it. He was underrated for most of his career, and this is some of his best work. The whole cast gets to play complicated people who don't make things easy for the audience, which is probably why the studio had no idea what to put on the poster. It's one of the best crime films of its decade, and almost nobody's heard of it. Abel Ferrara made this a few years after Driller Killer, and a lot of what he does here showed up later in Bad Lieutenant. Strippers in Manhattan are getting stalked and killed by someone who's documenting his murders in a novel called Fear City. Tom Berenger plays an ex-boxer who now manages talent. When his girls start getting too scared to come to work, he decides to handle things himself. Billy D. Williams is the cop on the case who keeps clashing with Berenger, but eventually needs his help to catch the guy. Ferrara wasn't a big name yet when he made this, but you can see him building toward the filmmaker he became later with Bad Lieutenant and King of New York. Fear City didn't get much attention when it came out, and it still doesn't, which is a shame because it's a genuinely impressive piece of work and way more influential than people realize. Paul Greengrass made his first film in 1989, long before the Bourne movies or any of the stuff he's known for now. His most recent film, The Lost Bus, was one of the best of 2025. This was where he started, and it's a hell of a debut. David Thewlis plays Kevin Deacon, a British soldier who gets knocked unconscious during the battle in the Falklands and is left for dead. Back home, they give him a hero's memorial. His family mourns him, and then weeks after the war ends, he shows up alive. You'd think that would be cause for celebration, but it's the opposite. The military turns on him. The press turns on him. His own community turns on him. Everyone assumes he must have deserted and been hiding while his friends were dying. Deacon can barely remember what actually happened, so he can't even properly defend himself. David Thewlis is extraordinary in this. He plays a damaged kid who has no idea how to handle what's being done to him. And the movie is really about what Britain actually did to the men who fought there.